Hi, my name is Virginia Sullivan, and welcome to the LCDC Communications Training, Module 6, Turning Learning into a Clear and Usable Local Plan. Our learning objectives today will be to structure a clear communication plan using a repeatable template, link local goals and national LCDC themes into focused communication priorities. We'll be looking to translate the insights from what you have covered from Module 1 through to Module 5 into practical actions, looking at your audiences, looking at your messages, your channels, your accessibility, and your stakeholder engagement. We'll talk about setting realistic timelines, responsibilities, and success indicators, and also give you the tools for you to create your own concise communications plan for your very own LCDC. So as a review of the communication channels, we spoke about websites and having that dedicated section on your local authority websites for your LCDC news, for funding calls, meeting minutes, and reports. Your social media platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, are vital for those announcements, to share project highlights, and public consultations. Many of you are using email newsletters, and perhaps quarterly it allows you to send updates to community groups and stakeholders. Your local media is a huge partner in terms of sharing out press releases for those significant announcements, for your funding opportunity launches, and indeed to share stories around some really successful projects. Information sessions and consultation workshops, are a key part of that public consultation. Equally, award ceremonies and the rest are a great opportunity for you to really have those types of events where it gets you out into the public arena and gets you the opportunity to meet with the public and your various stakeholders. And finally, printed materials. So that'd be around the production of flyers, of posters, and annual reports, which you could share across your library network, through council offices and community centres, for example. So looking back at the key foundations around planning effective communications, ultimately, around all of this, our ambition is that we want to promote awareness, transparency, and participation in the work of LCDCs, while at the same time you're building trust among your communities and your stakeholders and those funding bodies. The key objectives for you are to raise public awareness of the LCDC's role, the programs that it runs, for example, SICAP, and the impact of those programs in communities. You're looking to strengthen stakeholder relationships through community groups, local authorities, state agencies, and businesses. You're looking to enhance public participation in planning and community and development processes, really giving a voice to those communities and allowing them to be a vital part of that and make sure that they're listened to and that their ideas are heard. You're promoting transparency and accountability in all LCDC activities. And finally, supporting capacity building by sharing relevant opportunities and funding calls and training. So step one in all of this always starts with who is your audience? Who is your priority? Who are you looking to target? And, where do they belong? So we've identified three key or priority audiences around this. First is the core community audience. So familiarity with community and voluntary groups, your social enterprises, local action groups, youth groups, older people networks, indeed resident associations, migrant and multicultural communities, families and parents, people with disabilities, and those rural communities and isolated householders. The second group, we'd kind of really bring them together under strategic and stakeholder audiences. So that would be your local authority departments, your leader partnerships, PPNs, local development companies, your ETBs and education providers, the HSE and community health, local Gardaí, and funders and national bodies. Thirdly, then, is that public audience. That's that front-facing kind of community public audience. So that would be your general public, need your local media, local businesses, and then people who are seeking funding or further information. So who we need to reach and what they need from us. So every effective LCDC communications plan starts with a clear understanding of the people that you are serving. Going back to that earlier part with those 3 clear target audiences. LCDCs work with a wide range of community groups, each with a different level of awareness, each with individual needs and barriers and communication preferences. This section will help each LCDC identify their priority audiences and tailor communication so that it's relevant, it's accessible and inclusive. So what we want here, we want you to really understand, I suppose, who your LCDC needs to communicate with. So it's not particularly everybody within your county. It's really to kind of drill that down and filter that truly to understand who you are communicating with. You need to understand the needs, the motivations, and the challenges of each of these groups. And indeed, they may be different from group to group. You want to ensure the communications are reflecting of diversity across your area. And you want to make sure that you're choosing the right channels. So we use the term channels. What we mean by this really is that you're choosing the right platform. So that could be a social media, it could be your website, it could be a newsletter, it could be radio. You want to choose the right way, the right channel, the right platform, and the right format and language that you know is going to resonate most with that particular audience. So step 2 is understanding what each group needs. So for each audience, you need to answer, what do they need to know from us? What is it that we want to tell them? What is the purpose of this? What decisions or actions are they trying to make? So you're trying to think, is this maybe somebody in the community and voluntary sector that they are looking for funding? Are they looking for help in terms of creating a plan for their area? Are they looking for training to skill people within their area to be able to do more for themselves? What is it that they need, or what decisions are they trying to make? What challenges or barriers do they face? Is that around digital accessibility? Is it around literacy? Is there a barrier to language? Indeed, is there a barrier to time or transport, or indeed confidence? So when we understand what the barriers and challenges that they face, we can then create content. We can choose the right platform, or we can put in additional supports to make sure that the content is going to reach them, that they will understand it, and that they will be able to take action. And what role does the LCDC play for them? Are you providing the role of information? Are you supporting those communities perhaps in a little bit more of a way in terms of maybe training or needs assessment of needs and all of those types of things? Are you a connector? Are you perhaps facilitating connections between them and other stakeholders? Are you funding them for them to be able to really, I suppose, implement initiatives within their communities? Or are you an enabler to those communities? So think to yourself, what role is it? Because when you have the answer to these various things, it allows you to create a communications plan that you know is going to be effective to that particular cohort and delivered in a certain way that you know is going to resonate with them and that they will engage with it. Really important is matching the audience to their communication preferences. Okay, so a couple of things to consider here for yourselves is plain English summaries. So remember what we had covered in Module 5 around plain English, making sure that the content that we are creating, be that visual content, be that written content, be it flyers, social media, we're writing a press release, we're going to go on radio, whatever it is, that we make sure that it's delivered in a way that is being understood by those by whom we are targeting. So that comes to your posters, it comes to leaflets, and it comes to community notice boards. For some of your audiences, they may say, and they may be most reactive to the likes of a WhatsApp group, a community WhatsApp group. They may be most responsive to an SMS, to a text out, okay? So they'd be communities perhaps that would not have a high level of digital engagement, but perhaps would be responsive to the likes of a text from a trusted partner. Social media is absolutely wonderful in terms of reaching out and targeting your audiences. While yes, it may kind of think, we'll have to have Instagram and LinkedIn and all of those, absolutely great and serve a really good purpose. But actually, if you were to do one and one alone, I would suggest Facebook. Facebook is often the strongest community kind of level platform that you could choose. There tends to be a really strong level of community news, community engagement, community support on Facebook in a different way than perhaps some other platforms. It is very broad in its range of ages of people who would support that platform as well. Other platforms maybe would skew a little bit older or a little bit younger and things like that, or they would be kind of more refined to different audience types. Whereas Facebook will serve you incredibly well if you kind of create your platform and link in with your different community and voluntary sectors through that. Your website is a hugely important tool for you in terms of that longer form content, as I'd call it. So that's somewhere that you could kind of house your newsletters, you could house your reports, kind of maybe a higher level of information about different grants or different supports and things like that you are offering people, and PDFs and the rest as well. Local radio is hugely important and is a core part of the overall campaign. So local radio is, it's hugely trusted platform. It's got incredible reach. And their brief would also be to support communities as well. So they're great at supporting local stories, local initiatives. And certainly for those audiences that you would feel that perhaps they're not digitally native, they wouldn't be active on digital, radio can kind of come in and really give you that opportunity to reach those audiences in an incredibly effective and trusted way. Partner channels are hugely important as well at community level. So start to think about who within the communities that you are looking to target is already active. So it could be a sporting organization. It could be a community group that has, a built, as we always say, they already have a built kind of active community that kind of communicates within their kind of realm. So as we say, community groups could be the libraries, could be schools, could be creches, could be sports clubs. So you can kind of really, I suppose, share your message out in partnership with these people through a very, very trusted platform and really get that high level of engagement as well. It's a great, as we call it, route to market, a great way for you to get your message directly to those that you are looking to target. In-person outreach or information sessions, so those kind of public sessions can be really, really effective in terms of engaging with your audiences where they live. Be that a public awareness campaign, be it a public consultation that you are looking to do. It's a great way to kind of explain what the LCDCs do. It's a great support perhaps to a particular campaign that you're running yourselves. And it really helps to ensure that the right message is landing in the right way to the right audience. Very, very effective. Define your core message. So a couple of things around this here. Core message should be clear. So what we mean by that, it should be simple, it should be jargon-free, and it should be easy to understand in one read, going back to the principles from Module 5 around creating plain English, easy to understand content. It should be consistent. Really, the best campaigns and the best messaging and the best communication are those that are shared multiple times across the right channels for that particular audience. So you may say, well, I'd like to have it out on Facebook. I'd like to send out a newsletter. I'd like to get something in the parish notes. I'd like to get something out on radio. I'd like to get something into the newspaper. So you're thinking of all those different platforms, like we said earlier, or the different channels that we know will be the right fit for the particular audience that we're targeting. So it's not about just doing something once. It's about consistency. It's about repeated actions across the right channels in order to match the communication preferences of the target audience that you have in mind. They should be actionable. So it's helping people know what they can do, what they can join, or what they can apply for. That's what we call a call to action. So it's about find out more, sign up here, read this link, attend this event, check out this page on our LCDC website, things like that, okay? So it allows you to fully understand that. Relevancy, addressing the real needs of your audience. Go back to section 2. Start to understand what are the real needs of your audience that you're targeting, and start to kind of make sure that your content is relevant to those needs. Your audience then will start to resonate with that because they will see themselves in that. They'll say, yeah, they actually understand me. Yeah, they're really addressing what's important to me so I'm likely to engage and I want to find out more. And localized, reflecting the strengths, the priorities, and communities in your area. So we want, to move away perhaps from very generic type content, but we want to start sharing messages that are very grounded in your own counties, that are telling the story of your counties, that are sharing the people doing the work in your counties and are sharing the outcomes of what the LCDC does within your county. So examples here are some core messaging that could be adaptable to your county. We support local communities to access funding and opportunities. Our role is to bring people, organisations and ideas together to strengthen our area. And we're committed to accessible, inclusive and community-led communication. So we're not saying you have to use these, but it's just a demonstration of how you can start to think about what is the core message. What do I want people to understand about what the LCDC does in my county? You want to tailor your message to those priority audience. So think back, who's your priority audience, okay? What does each group need to hear? What reassurance or clarity supports them? What's going to make them feel that it's trusted and want them to take action? What action do you actually want them to take? Is it that you want them to come to a public event? Is it that you want them to sign up to your regular newsletter? Is it that you want them to start following you on social media? Is it that you want them to come to sign up for a funding webinar? What is it that you want them to do? And what's the most appropriate tone? So you don't necessarily want to come off as being too austere on things. You really want to come in, you're working in collaboration with communities. So it's that very collaborative, supportive, informative tone. We want to be encouraging. We want to use plain English and really explain it, like we said, kind of step by step. So the main detail at the top, a little bit kind of the breakdown, and then the call to action. Okay, so an example here around community groups would be, we are here to help your group access reports, apply for funding and strengthen your community activities. Okay, so that really explains to community groups what the LCDC does and how it can support them. So really understanding the role of each channel or each platform can help you to understand what is the right one for me to use within my community. So around your digital channels, that would be your local authority website, your LCDC landing pages, and that's great to sit for longer content, funding information, forms, reports, updates, that type of thing. Your social media, like we're saying, Facebook is strongest for community. It's really good for creating awareness, sharing updates, any events that you have coming up. It's great to share that out. Storytelling, telling the good stories, the good work that's being done, and also sharing that lovely visual content as well. Your email newsletters or your partner bulletins. So effective for reaching groups that are already engaged or subscribed to that database as well. And then for those groups who would prefer simple, direct, low kind of digital bandwidth communication, maybe that WhatsApp group or that messaging app as well could be really effective. So for those people who would have a preference, a communication preference, which would not include those digital platforms and would be more likely to engage with offline channels, the role that community centres, libraries and notice boards play is really, really important in terms of really reaching that older audiences or those with low digital literacy. Your local newspapers and community magazines are fantastic in terms of reinforcing the key messages of the LCDC in creating awareness and telling good stories. Equally, radio is phenomenal really in terms of getting that strong reach with the mixed demographic, especially in rural areas. And then your posters, your flyers and your booklets. So great for events, great for funding calls, or indeed to share out that plain English information as well. So I alluded earlier to some of those partner or people kind of channels where we would say that would be really beneficial to you in terms of sharing out information. So that would include the PPNs, that would include your local development companies, your leader partnership boards, the school network, the ETBs, again, your library network and sports partnerships. And then not forgetting your health networks, your migrant supports and your local community groups. They are amazing in terms of amplifying, in terms of growing and in terms of giving visibility to the messages that you have to share with communities, but it's going through those trusted partners So the likelihood for engagement is so much more than if you were trying to do something by yourself. It gives you extended reach, i.e. it shares the message wider, but it's also trusted because it's going through those various partner roles as well. So it's really, really beneficial. And in terms of cost, there is none really, except a little bit of time to get it set up. So I suppose using what you know from section 2 and section 3, a couple of questions for yourself. Which channel do your audience use most? Okay, which channels help them to understand and take action? What channels are accessible to them? And what channel best suits the type of information that you're sharing? So is it funding? Is it a community story? Is it something about an event? Okay, so an example of what we mean by this over this table just below here. So on the left is your audience. So we'll take community groups. Okay, so you're looking particularly to target community groups with a message around funding. So the best way to target those community and voluntary groups would be through email, would be through the website, would be through Facebook, and through your PPN bulletin. Remembering to use plain English and use deadline reminders. Just be really kind of explicit in terms of what are the key dates around a funding application. Older adults, perhaps, you want to talk to them about local wellbeing programs. So great way to reach those audiences would be around radio, would be maybe posters in the local community, and would be local newspapers. And again, being mindful of the audience, using good kind of decent size large font, not overdoing it in terms of language, but having high contrast between dark font light background or vice versa as well. So easily read, and it's something that's just going to jump and people will kind of recognize as well. Migrant communities then. So perhaps you're sharing a message around inclusion and participation. So good partner channels there, would be very, very beneficial in terms of those that are already active in the community and working with those migrant communities. Perhaps WhatsApp would be a good one as well. And then visuals. If there is a language difference, visuals could be really, or infographics could be incredibly useful to you in terms of sharing those updates. Obviously being mindful of language needs. So perhaps in some instances it will need to be translated to really ensure that it's being fully understood by those new communities where there is that language difference as well. And then to the general public, where you're telling stories around community and impact, obviously using social media, wonderful, radio, great to support that, and then stories in local press. So that visual storytelling piece is incredibly effective there. So in creating your narrative themes, really, you are really, I suppose, wanting to structure content across the year, and it helps you to do that. So rather than thinking kind of from week to week or whatever, saying, God, what should I do now? It's trying to take, as I say, like a campaign focus to things. So you're starting to think, well, maybe for the first quarter, we're going to focus on this. Quarter 2, we're going to focus on this and all the rest. So it helps to kind of link you back in terms of always that overarching theme for a period of time across the year. So some suggested themes for you within LCDCs: community empowerment, so maybe supporting groups to lead local solutions; inclusion and participation, ensuring all communities feel seen and heard; collaboration will be around working with partners to achieve shared goals; your transparency then in explaining what the LCDC does and how decisions are made; and then local impact, showcasing positive outcomes and community stories. So these themes can guide social content, your newsletters, your events, and also your reports. So each LCDC should choose what's manageable for them. We would never prescribe to say you have to do this, 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 and this, and this many times across the month. It's about, I suppose, what is manageable for you within the resources that you currently have, and maybe having the ambition over time to extend that with increased resources and supports within your day-to-day. As we say here, it is about quality over quantity. That's really important. And to have something that's consistent. Consistency is hugely important in terms of your marketing. There's no point in going gung-ho and saying we're going to do this, 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 and this, and we're going to do 5 things a week here, we're going to do 2 things in that, and there's great enthusiasm for the first couple of weeks, but then naturally over time, things come in and other priorities take over and it kind of slides. That's really, I suppose, where communication becomes very, very ineffective. If you could decide what is manageable for you, what can you commit to, that is better than going gung-ho and then stopping, okay? And then hopefully maybe over time, as there's familiarity or indeed other resources, that you'll be able to extend that. What we would recommend is that your website will get an update each month. So that could be funding, it could be news, could be reports, things like that. So something, as we say, more long form content gets shared there. If you could manage 1 to 2 social posts per week, that'd be marvelous. Starting to pick those themes and starting to talk about what's happening around those themes for yourselves. A quarterly email or partner bulletin update. Having regular notice board updates if you have different posters and different things like that as well. Partnering with your local press, be that radio or be that newspapers, magazines, or other digital platforms that would be kind of sharing news stories in your area. Great to kind of link in with them occasionally, helping to share the stories, especially around those kind of bigger priority messages that you would have throughout the year as well. Your partnerships with the likes of PPN is incredibly valuable to you. The extended reach that they would have through to all of those community and voluntary sectors in your county are hugely valuable, and they definitely help to amplify the message of the LCDC. As we say, it's about keeping communication active, but balancing it in a way that it doesn't become overwhelming. And it's about, as I said earlier, that consistency and quality over quantity. Okay, so decide for yourselves what you feel would work best for you. So before kind of finalizing your messages, ask yourself, is the message clear enough for anyone to understand? And would a member of the public describe us in the same way after reading it? Would they read it and would they understand that a little bit more? Or perhaps it's endorsed what they felt before, but weren't quite sure. Does the message reflect our LCDC's local identity and values? Does it match what our audiences actually need from us? Are we actually listening to what our target audiences want, what their needs are, and are we addressing that in terms of the content that we're creating? And finally, does it support an inclusive and accessible communication approach? Are we making sure that we're really reaching the widest audience possible in terms of accessibility and inclusivity? So in terms then of actually creating kind of a quarterly or a monthly, whatever is the right way for yourselves to do it, action plan, it's going to help you really, I suppose, convert your audiences and message and channel into something that's realistic for you to roll out monthly or quarter to quarter. Okay. So really, I suppose the first thing you need to do is identify what actually do I want to be talking about? Are we getting into a window where we are going to be talking or doing a lot of work around funding? So perhaps that's going to be a theme that we're going to pick. Or are we going to be looking to community events? Are we going to be going and doing maybe some public engagement events? Are we seeking the opinions of the public? Are we going to maybe do a roadshow where we're going to be kind of telling them and demonstrating what we're doing in communities and explaining all the services under the umbrella of the LCDC? Are we looking to share just some success stories of what's really working well? Maybe there's partnership announcements or well-being initiatives. There's lots of different things that you could have as your themes. Okay, so each quarter, perhaps choose, we say here 3 to 5, just choose whatever themes that align to where you're at within the LCDC in your county, and allow you then to keep your communication focused around that period and focused to the overall theme there as well. So in terms then of planning ahead, this is a tool that you have it in your workbooks as well. So the theme itself, decide what's your theme going to be. Think about, who do I want this to go to? Who is the target audience? What is it that I want to say to them? Okay, what's my key message? And what's my call to action? What's the output? Where am I going to put this? Does this need to be on radio? Do I need to send out a press release? Would I like to take an ad in the local paper? Is it going to be on social media? Is it going to go into a newsletter? I'm not saying everything. Always go back to your audience. When you're wondering, what is my output here? Go back to your audience and think about what their communication preferences are. Where is it that they go to communicate? Where do they go to find things out? Do they go online? Do they go to their library? Do they like to go to events? Do they read the paper? Do they listen to radio? That's what the answers to output go back to your audience. Okay. Then the owner is who within the team is taking charge of this and when must it be done by. Okay, so they're just kind of an internal piece for yourselves in terms of ownership and deadline. A great one to do there is around accessibility check. So that could be somebody on the team who's going to do that final kind of sense check on things, or maybe somebody within the wider organization that will do that for you as well. It gets served out, that's part of the plan, and then success and measurement. We'll come to that shortly. And that's how you look back You learn from your I suppose, the metrics and the performance of it. It allows you to understand what will repeat and allows you to understand what might we tweak next time to make it better. Okay, really important part in terms of serving out your communications. So in terms of creating your content schedule for it, this really is kind of another sheet, really, really similar to this one here, but it just allows you kind of to stay focused in terms of what's the theme for the month in week 1, week 2, week 3, all of that, what we're going to kind of be concentrating on, to whom, on what platform, with what message, and by when. And then there's a measurement piece in this, but we'll come to that. This is also in your workbook. So if you feel that this is kind of a snapshot that'll help you in terms of managing communications, it's there for you to use, and it allows you to plan it and then also measure it and then have that reflection piece to help you for the next campaign or the next theme that you're going to be rolling out for yourselves as well. So in terms of measurement and review, this really, a lot of campaigns really fail because they don't do this final step. They think by just doing it, as we say, pressing send, sending it out into ether, serving out your campaign, that's it, done. But the best campaigns and the most effective campaigns over time are those that pause to measure and pause to review and learn really from what it is, because it allows you to continuously improve. So it is only effective if you review it regularly. Okay, it's going to give you, I suppose, what we'll just go through here is maybe a way that you can monitor what is working, identify the gaps. You won't necessarily get it perfect first time round, but it's just over time you become more familiar with it. You get to understand the nuances of your target audiences. You get to understand the platforms and how they work. You get to understand timings and tweaking of messages and things like that as well. So how you would measure success across your digital channels. You would typically look at the number of website visitors. Now, your IT teams will help you with this in terms of what we would call analytics. The analysis of the performance is called analytics on your website. So that's where you'd look at the website visits to your LCD pages. You might look and see, well, how many people actually downloaded that form or that report for their own personal use? You might look to see, well, what was the engagement on social posts? Don't be too disheartened if you say, gosh, there wasn't a huge amount of likes, or there wasn't a huge amount of shares, or there wasn't a huge amount of comments. It's a combination of everything. But also what's probably one of the best statistics to look at is actually engagement. How many people looked at it? How many people saw it? How many people did something with it? Okay, so it's a combination of things. So don't be disheartened if you felt, well, gosh, I only got 2 comments on that and I put so much effort into it. Actually, at the end of the campaign, you may see that your engagement was excellent, and you can see where that engagement was. Did it reach those regional, those geographical areas and those types of target audiences that I want? So again, it's called analytics. That's the analysis of the performance on your websites, and also separate analytics on your social media platforms that your communications teams within the local authorities can help you with if they're managing it on your behalf. Also then the reach of partner posts. So if you're partnering with the likes of the PPNs, with the library networks, with sporting organizations, with different community groups, they'll be able to help you to kind of understand how different partner posts worked as well and what the engagement was like. So you do an awful lot of offline things as well, and we can equally measure those. Digital is great because it is absolutely measurable from start to finish. Offline, it's a little bit more, not difficult, but it's just obviously done in a different way. You're reliant on people for offline to measure these things for you. So offline, you're looking, perhaps you had an event and you want to see, well, how many people arrived to the event? Maybe you want to see how many inquiries did we receive through our community offices. So yes, you may send out some of your communications online. And yes, you may have, it in a partner newsletter or in a partner WhatsApp group or something like that. But, the result of that may actually be seen through an increase of inquiries into your offices. And that may be the call to action around that. Get in touch with us at a telephone number, or email us at, or visit, and here's a link to something on the website. Okay, so it can be just somebody physically making the effort to inquire or to send an email, or maybe feedback from groups during an outreach. If you were doing the public and kind of engagement event, that it's how groups kind of fed back information during it, or indeed after that, in terms of how it went. And then obviously the uptake of printed materials. So if you're sharing printed materials out through various community events, or through community groups or library networks and things like that. Are people taking them? Are people interested? And how quickly are they kind of getting through those? That's another great metric for you. If you were doing kind of community impact and engagement, so it would be maybe looking to see, okay, over a period of time, how many new groups actually made contact with us, people we'd never had engagement with before? Are we getting a better diversity of groups contacting us as well? Again, we feel we're getting that better kind of outreach into that better kind of feel for maybe groups that we'd never spoken to or that weren't represented through the work of the LCDC. Perhaps that you're getting greater participation in consultations. So that could be a public facing one. It could be one where there's an online consultation, but you're seeing that increased engagement because people are understanding the purpose of these things and they're more likely to engage. Or indeed, you're getting feedback from maybe groups that or communities that in the past you might have considered they're quite hard to reach. But the approaches that you're taking by understanding them, understanding how you can serve them well, understanding where to share the information, that's actually bringing a result in because it's actually allowing you to get engagement from groups that perhaps previously you would have said they were actually quite hard to reach. Then internally, you can look to see the impact of things through the timeliness of updates, the consistency of message delivery, the accessibility checks were completed, and that maybe over time that you're becoming a lot more on point, that you're getting it right kind of first time round, and equally that the collaboration with partners internally is increasing and that is working really, really well for you. So I suppose if you're looking again then to see around accessibility and inclusivity, kind of to have that look back in that review, things you might want to think about for yourselves are, was plain English used? Did we use that methodology that we had agreed upon? Were visuals really clear and readable? Did they work? Were our videos subtitled? Did we take the time? Like there's a lot of automated apps there that can really help you in this. It's not as difficult as it used to be. So, to be able to make sure that your content is really accessible from that point of view as well. Was the mix of the on and offline channels used? So did you kind of give thought to communication preferences of target audiences? And did you really choose to use the right ones? And was it a good mix? Did messages reach perhaps older adults, migrants, or rural households that perhaps in the past, like I was saying, might have been more difficult to reach and engage with? And perhaps that it worked really, really well because you've taken the time to do things a little bit differently, but that is having the impact that you wanted. And is there any feedback on difficulties accessing information? So is there anything you can improve upon? Because, it's only through really measuring, reviewing, and reflecting is that these things can be enhanced and they can be improved upon, and then we can do a better job next time around. And I suppose it just keeps it very practical, but it keeps it very embedded in the culture of everything that you're doing around your communications as well. So in terms then, I suppose what you should kind of just overall kind of keep notes on is like what's working well and what you should definitely repeat. Don't break this part. This is working really well and it's having the effect that we want. Think about what needs adjusting. Is it timing, as in the time of day something goes out? Is it that it needs adjusting? It's not quite the right platform. The messaging needs adjusting. What is it? What needs a little tweak to, in your mind, to make it more effective next time around? Are any new audiences emerging that perhaps you hadn't identified previously and you need to be mindful of them now because you wouldn't necessarily have had them in your mind as a target audience? So you weren't aware of their communication preferences. You weren't aware of the needs that they had. So perhaps new audiences have emerged that you are now going to start to kind of include in your content, but to make sure that the content matches them, their needs and their preferences. Are any misconceptions or questions coming from the public? Are they now, kind of still querying things that maybe need more clarity from your point of view? Are there interesting questions coming through that might say to yourself, do you know what I think we'll focus on next month might be a bit of an FAQ. We'll do a frequently asked questions and kind of directly answer some of these things to the public that'll help them in terms of their understanding. Or are opportunities identified through community engagement? So you're seeing that there's new things coming around all the time. And it's by having, I suppose, that kind of reflective measurement and reflective piece that allows you to really have that continual improvement to your communications planning to ensure that it is being as effective as possible at all times. So thank you. That brings to the end Module 6 of the LCDC Communications Training.